For months, the president has unleashed an all-out attack on mail-in ballots, but Mr. Trump's attempt to sow doubt in the integrity of our elections is not new.
This voting system is out of control. You have people, in my opinion, that are voting many, many times. Just make sure your vote gets counted. Make sure, because the only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. Remember that. So important that you watch other communities, because we don't want this election stolen from us. We don't want this election stolen from us. I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it.
Rinse and repeat between 2016 and now. Now, an exhaustive investigation by the New York Times details how the president is using a decades-old playbook and the power of the federal government to cast doubt on the validity of the election should he not come out on top. Quote, the movement to convince the country that voter fraud is a present danger to democracy has itself become a present danger to democracy. It has melded fully into the president's re-election campaign. The argument is now that the only way Trump can lose this election is through sweeping voter fraud that benefits his opponent. Any outcome in which he does not win, therefore, can be considered illegitimate. This, Trump says, is why he refuses to commit to a peaceful transfer of power. Only fraud can beat him, and fraud is everywhere. Joining me now is New York Times and Sunday Magazine writer-at-large Jim Rutenberg. Jim, this reporting, as I said, is exhaustive. It is important. I'm so glad you did it. What Donald Trump is doing is not new to the Republican Party, frankly. You document how they've been doing or using tactics like this since the 1964 Civil Rights Act, again in 2000 with George Bush. How is Donald Trump, though, taking it further and using all of that groundwork laid before him to really put this next election in danger?
Well, you've never had a president take the ball and run with it. As you noted, and as the piece notes, the George W. Bush administration really picked up on this after Florida, after that recount. It really used voter fraud to try to drive a narrative in ways that they thought would help their political prospects. And the party really then ran with it during the Tea Party era. But Trump is himself an avatar of this voter fraud movement, and he's brought it into the presidency. And therefore, he's using the federal government to combat this problem that doesn't really exist in the way he says it does, that definitively does not exist in the way he says it does.
How is he using the federal government?
Well, you see it every day. He started a presidential commission, which you guys covered a lot. That was meant to establish the sense that there's pervasive voter fraud, that we're going to give a federal government imprimatur to this idea. That commission floundered and fell apart. That work then moved to the DHS. The DHS picked it up, and it's hard to even see a lot of what they were doing because a lot of the documents we've gotten to look at are redacted, but they studied this issue, ideas like a national voter ID. Then we see even the effects that presidential influence can have in the Postal Service, and of course his Department of Justice, which now all eyes, and certainly in the Democratic Party and in the civil rights community, is watching the Department of Justice to see what it does, and potentially in tandem with Trump's poll watchers in November.
So all that groundwork that was laid in 2016 and 2017 and that presidential commission on voting, that Chris Kobach was leading it. I remember having Chris Kobach on the air with me, and he was making absolutely no sense, trying to say that not only did we not know that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but we couldn't even really know if Donald Trump won the vote. This says he's standing on the White House lawn. He made no sense. And when it was disbanded, I think a lot of people thought, all right, well, done with that. We don't have to worry about it. Is that the case?
Not done with that. And now we're seeing the results, right? Because you make a great point. Sometimes these notions, they make no sense. And whenever these voter fraud charges get into the court, they really reduce down to what we initially hear. And I warn everyone to look out for this. When you hear the sensational headlines about pervasive voter fraud, watch those cases. They really end up being a much smaller deal. But these arguments really can matter in a contested election setting, which the president well knows, and his lawyers well know, and his political aides well know. So you'll get these charges will be happening potentially during contested recounts, and they can carry the day in a way that maybe they wouldn't in the courts in this political fight that we're bracing for.
So you say with just 32 days until the election, you're right, the strategy was now in full view: flood every state, every television news network, every newspaper and news feed with manufactured evidence of fraud to suppress Democratic votes before Election Day and to knock them out of state-by-state tallies in the courts and counting rooms afterward. Go on.
Well, we're really, especially kind of since I finished the piece, things are coming even more into view, and that'll happen in the weeks ahead. What it seems to be we're lining up for, and a lopsided victory by Joe Biden would change this, a lopsided victory by Donald Trump would change this, but we're looking at what seems to be protracted fighting after Election Day, ballot by ballot, state by state. In the swing states, also potentially a state like New York. If New York can't deliver its ballots on time and declare a victory, that state does not go officially into a blue column. So until that's done. So there's going to be the state by state, ballot by ballot fight. And the president is driving his argument already through what is now years of argument that there is debilitating, pervasive voter fraud for which there really isn't evidence.
And that's what you're hearing from a lot of concerned Democrats, a lot of concerned election watchers, some election officials who will talk to you on background, that they really want people to go to the polls and vote in person if they are able to, if they feel like they are in a safe enough position to do so, because it just will get counted faster and potentially ward off just the sort of scenario that you're talking about. We'll see what happens, though. Jim Rutenberg. Jim, thank you so much. And really great job reporting. Thank you for bringing that to us.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.